Hi, all. I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, December 22nd, 2022, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have an awesome show for you today. 10 pro tips for scanning with the Matterport Pro 3 camera. And here to talk to us about that is Tom Sparks. Tom is founder of Sparks Media Group and located halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento. Tom, thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Tom, for context for today's discussion about the Matterport Pro 3 camera, tell us about Sparks Media Group.
So Sparks Media Group is a media company. We provide pretty much every tool that a real estate agent could need to market a property. Photos, we provide video, we provide 3D virtual tours, floor plans, property websites, virtual staging, virtual decluttering, rendering of buildings. And yeah, pretty much everything that an agent could need to market a property.
Tom, you mentioned residential. Do you shoot other categories as well? Other categories of clients?
We do. We're heavy into residential, but we also do commercial. Getting into industrial, not quite there yet where I want to be. But yeah, we want to be able to touch all areas.
And you mentioned virtual tours. Which platforms are you using for your virtual tours?
Right now we're using Matterport, and we're also using iGuide. And those are the two that I'm sticking with.
Okay. And I imagine you published a Google Street View as well.
We do.
And I noticed on your website, sparksmediagroup.com, that you also have another company, scanyourspace.com. What's the context of having two different domains, two different brands?
Sure. So sparksmediagroup.com was really geared towards the residential crowd. We started getting contacted by retail, bakeries, restaurants, fitness centers, car dealerships, and they wanted pricing to do 3D virtual tours of their properties, to do photos, to do video. And those are in a completely different ball game as far as budgets. So I didn't want to point them all to Sparks Media Group where it says, we can do 2,000 square feet for $200. Why not create this whole new website and say, okay, 2,000 square feet of commercial is going to be $600 or whatever it is. So I created Scan Your Space. And really where that's going right now is the hospitality industry, country clubs, hotels, resorts that have ballrooms that are available for rent or spaces that they rent out for private events. We'll go in and scan those. We'll do 360-degree photos, not with Matterport or iGuide, but with our regular DSLR cameras or mirrorless cameras. And then we'll virtually stage those and put them all together in a nice package and deliver it to them so they can put it on their website and use for marketing purposes.
And the coverage area for Sparks Media Group for Scan Your Space?
So we're covering all of California right now. We have photographers in Texas, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Idaho, and Arizona, if I didn't say Arizona.
And I imagine those are independent contractors that you're using to cover all those states?
The majority, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And before we move into the Matterport Pro 3 camera, how did Sparks Media Group get started?
So I started doing photography 20 plus years ago, family, friends, birthday parties, that kind of thing. Then I started doing weddings, corporate events, family photos, and I was kind of getting burned out in that. And I joined a company as a contractor to shoot residential real estate. And I said, this is cool because I'm pretty extroverted, but sometimes, I'm just not in the mood to be around people. And when you're shooting a house alone, there's usually there's nobody there. So it's perfect. The houses don't talk back. The houses aren't late, that kind of thing. So it was great. I love driving, and I was able to drive around the houses and shoot them and deliver the content. I didn't have to worry about editing them or anything. But the pay wasn't that great. And there was a lot of gaps I noticed in services that were provided and really just overall customer service. It got to a point where I remember showing up late to a house. I told the company that I was going to be late because of traffic, and I was probably 45 minutes late. I showed up and the agent was upset, pissed off. You're late. I was about to leave. I got other stuff to do than to wait for you. I said, sorry, I called the company and told them I was going to be late. They never let the client know. So that right there, I was like, well, this is just bad customer service. And in an effort to be able to provide more services to this company I was working for, I went out and bought a Pro 2. Never having used Matterport, never having had a job, no experience with it, just bought a Pro 2. And I called them and I said, hey guys, I know that you offer Matterport. I went out and bought a Pro 2 camera. And so if you have any orders for that in my area, feel free to send me out. Well, they got super defensive and said that I was now competition with them. And I was like, well, how is buying a Matterport putting me in competition with you when I have a camera? And that's technically considered competition, So anyway, that kind of just dissolved the relationship with me and them. I said, okay, well, I like shooting houses. I know customer service, and, let's just start Sparks Media Group. So.
And the rest is history. So you had a Matterport Pro 2 camera. Do you still have that?
I do.
And when did you get a Matterport Pro 3 camera?
I, like some other people that I've known or that I know, it was kind of a holdout to getting it. I think I got it maybe a month ago. I'd have to go back and look at the videos I post. But
okay, back in November. And and how many days have you had a chance to shoot with the Matterport Pro 3 camera?
Oh, I've used it. I've used it a lot on a lot of jobs already for myself and for other companies as a contractor for them. So yeah, I couldn't tell you how many days in a row, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's so much that it's actually, I would add one other hat to your services as a key influencer. You're actually publishing a ton of video on your YouTube channel, which is how I met you, and that I found your YouTube videos about the Matterport Pro 3 camera awesome, super helpful. So
thank you.
And which is actually why you're here today. So to kind of jump into 10 pro tips for scanning with Matterport Pro 3 camera, I thought we'd just start with scanning and maybe talk a little bit about indoor scanning first. Is there anything that in fact, even before we do that, let's talk about what are your initial thoughts about the Matterport Pro 3 camera?
Well, I have it right here, so I'll just hold it as I'm talking about it. But, it's solidly built. It feels a lot sturdier than the Pro 2. I've personally never dropped the Pro 2, but I've seen a ton of, forum posts about people dropping the Pro 2. And I don't know what would happen if this drops, but it seems like it's pretty bulletproof. Maybe the LiDAR might not be. But yeah, it's solidly built. I love the removable battery, the rechargeable battery. Yeah, I like it. Small, compact. I don't know why.
I'll ask the question a little bit differently. Now that you've had a chance to use it indoors, outdoors, have done quite a bit of scanning with it, any buyer's remorse about buying it, or super happy, absolutely glad you did?
No, I'm glad I did. No buyer's remorse. I do have a love-hate relationship with Matterport. There was a while where we were beefing and I was only offering eye guides. But no, Matterport is I think here to stay, and I don't have any remorse. And as soon as I'm ready and as soon as they're available, I'm going to go out and buy more. I think they are available. The batteries went pretty quick.
Yes. In fact, in the We Get Around Network forum, WGANforum.com, we just started a text alert service because the batteries have been so hard to get a hold of. They became available for 24 hours yesterday. And if anyone is tired of checking, we can just go to the We Get Around Network forum and search the subject line for text Pro 3 and It's now a service that we offer is to help people know when the Matterport Pro 3 camera battery's on sale again.
It's an invaluable service. I'll have to say that thank you for posting that, because had I not got your email alert about that post, I wouldn't have been able to get on and get the 2 that I got yesterday. So thank you. They should be here today.
You're welcome. So how would you compare the Matterport Pro 3 camera to the Matterport Pro 2 camera when it comes to scanning?
It's maybe like Ferrari versus Toyota in the sense of speed. The Pro 3 is incredibly quicker. I posted that first impression video that I did, and I was shocked by how quick it was turning. That was the first time that I actually had used it, was when I was making that video, and it just was like, and it was done. The Pro 2 is fast, but the Pro 3 is faster, obviously. Yeah, I can't. It's just better.
Are you going to get rid of your Matterport Pro 2 camera, or there's a reason why you're going to keep that and keep the Pro 3?
No, I'm keeping it. I have a few of them, a few Pro 2s, and I'm on the classic plan with that. And so, I'd say right now, 90% of my residential customers are still doing interior only. And so
that makes a little bit of a challenge, because you can't use the Matterport Pro 3 camera with the Matterport Classic pricing. So any residential that you're doing, you're using the Pro 2. And I imagine that there's a little bit of tension inside about, gee, I love this Ferrari. I would like to use it for scanning of homes, but these clients I need to keep on a classic plan, and therefore I have to shoot them with a Pro 2. Is that?
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. And that's probably the only tension I have in regards to it is I have to use the Pro 3 on the new plan. And, I want to keep everybody as many as I can on the classic plan.
Okay. So if someone was new to Matterport and they were deciding between a Matterport Pro 2 camera and a Matterport Pro 3 camera, there is somewhat of a difference of a few $1,000s in difference in pricing. If that was you and you were making a decision today, would you still just take the Ferrari over the sedan?
I would. Simply because when I had just the Pro 2, I did have a few clients, including a school, and they wanted me to scan their outside campus or scan the outside of a house that was for sale. And I would have to do that, at the dusk hour when the sun wasn't shining right in, or I'd have to rent the BLK 360. And that was expensive and a headache, and the BLK is a whole different beast of slowness. So if I was just getting into it and having to decide on what to get, I would get the Pro 3 first.
Despite the fact that it's a few $1,000s more than the Matterport Pro 2 camera. Primarily because I think I'm hearing two things, may correct me or enhance. One was speed and 2 was outdoors.
Correct. Yeah, in that order. Speed and then outdoors.
Okay.
And you could save a couple. Well, you could save a couple $1,000s and get the Pro 2, but then if you ever need to do outdoor, you're going to rent a BLK, and at some point, renting the BLK all those times is going to add up to that couple $1,000s.
Okay, so let's go back to scanning. Any observations in terms of indoor scanning that you've done of any challenges? What comes to mind to me is glass surfaces and offices that have glass. Have you noticed any challenges of scanning with the Pro 2 with offices separated by glass, or with the Pro 3, or is Pro 3 work just fine? Mark windows, trim mirrors?
Yeah, I'll say when I was using the Pro 2 and doing areas that had glass doors or glass railings, in an outside space, I would tend to mark those prior to getting right up on it. And then I never really had any issues. With the Pro 3, I just did a car dealership the other day, and there's a ton of glass in there and no issues at all. And I even went through a glass wall that had a glass door, and it saw both sides of it. No issues, no alignment issues, anything.
Okay. So I'm going to actually count that as our first tip is related to glass. is that that you don't have to do anything special. The Matterport Pro 3 camera is just going to work. You still may need to mark your windows as you're scanning. Is that true, or no, works even without marking it?
Well, previously with the Pro 2, I would mark as I'm approaching, but before I get to it. Now I mark after it. So I still do all the markings while I'm there on site, but I do it after. I don't have to do it before. And I haven't had any issues.
Okay. Do you notice any difference with error messages, Pro 3 versus Pro 2?
No, I did get one, and I wish I would have remembered what it was, but I did get one error message on the Pro 3, and I just did a rescan, and it kept going.
Mm-hmm. I've talked with a number of Matterport service providers that have owned a Matterport Pro 2 camera or still own it, and now have the Matterport Pro 3 camera, and they talk about way less error messages while using the Pro 3. Is that true for you too, or haven't noticed that yet?
I haven't noticed it to that point. I never really got a lot of errors with the Pro 2. I think the way I scan, I tend to scan more than I need, or scan points than I need. So I think that eliminates a lot of issues.
Okay.
But I'm not one of those people that are on the groups going, "Oh my God, I'm having errors today. What's going on?" I just don't tend to get those. Knock on wood.
Okay. And in terms of scanning outdoors, distance between scans.
Yeah. So I did a test. I took my handheld laser measure with me, and originally I was just picking up the tripod and going 5 steps, putting it down. So I did this test, and I started it. I typically, when I'm outside, I was going every 10 steps. But then I said, let me try to go, 11 steps, 12 steps, 13 steps.
Okay. 57 minutes later, how many steps were you up to between scans?
I think it finally got an alignment error at 43. So I had to go back to 42. So 42 for me was the limit, 42 steps.
42 steps. And then you've actually done a little translation table. So 42 steps of Tom Sparks'
5'9" self, it equals 115 feet 6 inches.
Say again?
115 feet 6 inches.
115.
Correct.
15 and 6 inches. And that was, tell me number of steps again?
42.
42. So, and that's versus maybe every 6 or 8 feet with the Matterport Pro 2 camera. Can't even do that outdoors unless you're a rocket scientist and understand and appreciate how the camera works in order to tease that out. A magic, we'll just, for the purpose of this conversation, say it's nearly impossible to scan outdoors with the Matterport Pro 2 camera unless you are an artist. With the Matterport Pro 3 camera, no issues in terms of scanning outdoors, bright sun.
Yeah, no issues.
And can scan 42 steps.
115 feet. I was impressed at 15. I was impressed at 40 feet.
So it almost means, from a practical standpoint, anywhere you want to put the camera outdoors, there's a good chance that the scan's going to connect. And in your 57-minute video, thank you, which was actually awesome. I noticed in 3 days you had 300 people had watched the video. So there's obviously interest in the distance between the tripod. 42 steps, 115 feet, 6 inches. That's really awesome. I think, just as a tip, if you're thinking about buying the Matterport Pro 3 camera, the ability to scan outdoors and to have a lot of distance between scans. And you may not necessarily do that in a model, but because you want some walking around experience, but it may be handy to know there's quite a large distance that you could do between scans.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that stood out to me. I don't know if I saw it somewhere on Matterport's marketing, was like, you can scan further apart. You can, but how does that translate into a good user experience for navigating it, walking around?
Well, Tom, you put together this tour of, help me out, Mar Island Viejo. California.
Maryland, Vallejo. Yep. Yep.
And I walked around even where you were close to the 42 steps. And I found it okay. If I really wanted to walk that decommissioned military base, that I could move quickly and cover a lot of ground, and I didn't necessarily need to step every 10 feet. I understand you might, from a business standpoint, might scan it differently if you need to be able to put a scan in front of each storefront, in front of each building as you're doing it. But the fact that you had a lot of distance towards the end of creating that tour, I found that just fine. And I think this probably goes back to when you talked about the rotation of the camera speed, you called that, I think, a Ferrari versus a sedan. There's really kind of I think there's three reasons of speed. One is not just the rotation, but two is the distance between scans, because that means you may be doing way less scan points in a tour.
Yeah.
And if you can do a tour in 100 scans rather than 200 scans, that itself, you might say, is half the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I did that whole tour real time, as you saw in the video, in about an hour, and it was 140-ish scans or so.
Yeah. And then I think that third thing would relate to scan errors. If you do end up experiencing fewer scanning errors, then that's going to translate to time savings. So you haven't actually noticed that just yet.
No.
I had asked about outdoor bright sun. Are there any issues in using the Matterport Pro 3 camera in bright sun?
No, I did an airplane the other day and got a little lens flare, which is annoying, but it happens, I guess, with any camera, right? So I can't be mad at that.
That may be just the spin for your client in terms of it has this nice artsy effect in bright sunlight that looks like very richly shot cinematic movies that
the wax
sparkle.
The wax job on the wings.
Okay, so bright sun, no issue other than you may get some lens flare. That's good to know. Matterport Pro 2 camera, a lot of discussion in the We Get Around Network forum about shooting outdoors with a pool, that the water ends up black in a dollhouse. What about a Matterport Pro 3 camera? Scanning outdoors, is water also still black in the Matterport dollhouse?
So the very first house I did with the Pro 3 had a pool, and I noticed it was black on the mini map. And so what I did was I did a 360 and converted it to 3D, and it showed up as water on the mini map. So I sent it in for processing, and it came back black. Mm-hmm. So it handles it the same.
I'm going to say darn, because that actually should work. And that would be a pro tip, which would be used if you're using the Matterport Pro 2 camera, shoot it as a 360, convert it with Matterport Cortex, and voila, have water. I'd be curious, not today, but if you end up continuing to try that to see if you have success, and if that was just a random thing that the water ended up being black in the dollhouse.
Well, it brings up a good point that if it's showing up on the mini map as water, maybe that's a bug. So maybe I'll create a ticket on that and see if they can explain that.
It would be interesting, because in theory, it should just work. And other members of We Get Around Network, in fact, we did an entire show with Kevin and Eric Doyle with home3d.us, and that was one of the tips that they suggested. They carry, I want to say, a Ricoh Theta Z1 camera in order to shoot 360s for their outdoor. I want to say maybe they were doing exactly what you're talking about, but anyway, I'm in the weeds, a little bit off topic. Before we move on to talking about the gear, and I have some questions on that, is there anything else on scanning indoors, outdoors that you would offer as tips to people?
So one thing outdoors is, the video I did on Mare Island, I wasn't concerned if my shadow was in the shot, just because it wasn't for anything other than my uses. But that's something to pay attention to, is standing back far enough. And I guess I can carry over to the Pro 2 as well, but I don't know how my shadow affects with the LiDAR. So standing back far enough so that your shadow's not in any of, whether it's the photos or the LiDAR, I think would be important.
Okay. I suppose that would be interesting if you could charge a premium to clients to say, we're going to shoot at noon in order to eliminate the camera shadow or a person shadow. And that's a premium. It's like, paying, you don't get stuck on the middle seat on an airplane. Pay a premium for aisle and window seats. Do you, I think about the Matterport platform as spatial data actually being this most valuable thing that Matterport does that enables all kinds of applications. Are you doing anything where the scan data has been important to your clients or not yet?
Not yet. I do have a client I'm talking with to scan some buildings that are going to undergo renovation, and they want to get the data files, the E57s or the BIM files. And so I started on making a kind of a comparison chart between the Pro 2, the Pro 3, the BLK, and some of the higher end scanners, the Faro and such. And I'm working on that spreadsheet now, and I'm just going to kind of give it to them and say, okay, here's, if you're at this price point, this is kind of what you're going to get. If you want this level of quality, you're going to have to go to this price point and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't have any real world experiences right now getting data from it, but yeah.
Okay. Well, two things that sparks, if you don't mind, two things that sparks. One, we did do a WGAN TV Live at 5 show on Matterport, Matterpack, and E57 file, and level of detail, often referenced as LOD. And I think that show, for anyone that's really interested in understanding the data of the Matterport Pro 3 camera and its limitations in terms of how you sell that into a client, highly recommend. Go to the We Get Around Network forum, WGANforum.com, search in the box there for Pro 3 E57, that show will pop up. And we discuss things like outdoor elevations, as-built, construction documentation. And there really is this conversation about what is the client's expectations about the level of detail, the LOD, versus what is the capabilities of the Matterport Pro 3, the Matterport Matterpack, the Matterport E57 file. We're not going to discuss that anymore on this show, just reference people back, and certainly interested in the future, how the spatial data from the Matterport Pro 3 camera ends up helping you get additional categories of clients and additional clients. Was that in the back of your mind when you bought it, that this might open up new use cases for you?
I haven't been using it. I hadn't been using the Pro 2 as that. So not really, but it's kind of an added bonus, icing on the cake. If I can use this and get good data out of it, then why not?
Okay. Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about gear. You talked about buying 2 extra batteries, Matterport Pro 3 camera batteries yesterday, in fact.
Yeah.
Tell us about how long does your one battery last, and why you ended up buying 2 additional batteries.
So this is one thing I wanted to try to get done before our meeting today and hadn't really had a chance. I did take some notes and I'm kind of referencing them, but when I did that Mare Island scan, I started at 60% battery and I got down to 41% by the time I was done. And that was over 143 scans. So I don't have a good benchmark from, 100% down to 0. It's 500 scans. I don't know. I haven't ran out of a battery yet.
So why'd you buy 2 more?
Because I'm an extremist and there's a battery shortage. And if I need to sell some to make some, no, no, just because I am an extremist, and, hopefully I want to get a couple more Pro 3s. And so I just want to have enough battery. If I'm doing a big project, I don't want to have to stop and charge.
Okay. And have you done any all-day shoots of that might be a challenge if you only had one Matterport Pro 3 camera battery?
I've done all-day shoots, but I haven't killed the battery yet.
On the Pro 3?
On the Pro 3, yeah.
Okay. All right. And do you ever do maybe listings where there's no power in the...
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes.
So is there anything other than that safety? I just want to make sure that I have a battery. I don't want to run out of battery. Was there anything specifically that you decided you wanted to get to? I'm trying to understand why you just didn't buy one Matterport Pro 3 camera battery.
I just felt it's the extremist in me. I could have bought one. I wanted to buy 2. I didn't want to spend the money to buy 3. I had 3 in my cart originally, but I felt like I should give somebody else that extra one.
Okay.
No, it just comes down to, with my regular camera, I shoot Sony and I have 8 batteries for that. I never have ran through 8 at one time, but I have 4 batteries for my drone. So if a battery's low and I forget to charge it, I have a backup.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Is there any other special gear that you carry because you're shooting with a Pro 3 versus a Pro 2?
Not specifically. I bought those wedgets, door stops.
I was thinking of something else because you did tell me, because I asked you about, do you carry a hex 3mm wrench? And I think the answer was yes.
I do have one, not because of the reason that this became loose. I just have one because my tripod occasionally they'll work themselves out, and I'll just
okay. Hold that up just for a second, if you would. So this is the quick release that goes between the tripod and the Matterport Pro 3 camera. There have been some members of the We Get Around Network Forum community that have reported that the mechanism gets loose.
Yeah.
And they literally carry a hex wrench, a 3mm, in order to be able to tighten that just in case if they're in the field.
Correct.
So that's what so you happen to be carrying your wrench related to your tripod, but you happen to have a set that you carry. So just in case that got loose, have you had a chance? Have you had to tighten that?
No.
Okay.
No.
And tripod, are you using a Matterport tripod or a different tripod?
No, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Matterport is using Manfrotto, maybe? Seems like it's a rebranded Manfrotto. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I wasn't a fan of the tripod that they sent me with the Axis.
Okay, Matterport Axis smartphone rotator.
Yeah, and that tripod was, paper thin and
yes,
not very usable. So I have this. I've used this one for years, and I love it so much that I bought a couple of them.
What is it?
It's a ProMaster Specialist SP532C, and it's the carbon fiber version.
Okay.
And then I have a head on top, the SPH45P.
Can we see that? So, and why? So, can you take that off your tripod just to show us what you got, and then maybe hold it up in front of the camera? So, and which one is that?
This is the ProMaster SPH45P.
SPH45
P as in Paul.
Okay, and why do you like this mount?
Well, it's just easy to use. It's fluid. I've been using this particular brand and make and model. This is the third one that I've owned.
Okay.
But I've been using it since 2016.
Okay. It makes me a little bit nervous because I would call that a ball head that's on top of that.
It is a ball. Yeah.
So I'm going to issue a warning, and then maybe you could comment on that. Unless you're a longtime serious professional photographer, be super careful about buying a ball head with a Matterport Pro 3 camera or a Matterport Pro 2 camera for that matter, because you could easily lose your camera.
Let me rewind. I don't use the ball head for the Pro 2 or the Pro 3.
Thank you.
Yeah, I attach it directly to the tripod.
Are you as concerned about losing that, either the Pro 2 or the Pro 3, if you were to use that bald head. Oh, you couldn't use it anyway because you need that quick release piece from Matterport.
Right. But with the Pro 2, I think I put it on here once and I don't know why I did it. I just wasn't thinking. I didn't drop it, but I've actually dropped my camera, my regular camera off of this because it tightens up. It's really great. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes I'm just in a hurry up and let's get set up and I don't tighten it down all the way. And then the camera's like, whoop. So with the Pro 2 and the Pro 3, I attach it directly to the tripod.
Okay. What are you doing about how you carry your Matterport Pro 3 camera in the field?
I bought the case. I didn't buy the acceleration pack. So I went out and bought the case separately.
Did you buy that from Matterport?
I did.
Are you happy with it?
No. It's kind of bulky. I think they have space for 6 batteries and just a lot of extra stuff that I don't have. And it was really annoying looking at all those empty battery slots when I didn't have any batteries. So it could be smaller.
Is the foam pick and pluck or is it actually, do you have it there handy?
I do. I can grab it. I think it's laser cut. Let me grab it real quick. Hold on.
Yeah. Let's take a look at that. I think that would be, you have one of those follow me cameras. So
sorry.
We're following you. Maybe if you go back to your chair there, we're looking outside the side door at the moment.
Follow me back.
Yeah, it's following you. It's getting there almost. Thank you. Now we got you. I was just curious to see that case and if it's possible to hold it up. So that's interesting because it looks like you bought that case separately. But when I go to Amazon.com and I look at the Matterport Pro 3 case online, it doesn't have that pre-cut foam when you buy the individual case. So actually it did. Did that surprise you when you bought it?
No, I bought.
Could you hold it up one more time just so everybody could see the case?
Follow me on the camera was freaking out. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So it's got room for some heavy duty door stops. The Matterport Pro 3, does it carry the Matterport Pro 3 camera within the case? Yes. Okay. And then it's got places for batteries, battery charger.
2 batteries, 2 chargers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you put it down. That's great. Thanks for showing that. Were you surprised? Were you surprised that it had the fittings? Because the picture doesn't show that.
No, on Matterports, it did show it, didn't it?
I want to say, certainly when I go to Amazon, that it shows just pick and pluck kind of foam. And I got to think it's the same case.
I bought it. So I normally buy from Amazon. I bought it from Matterports directly. And on Matterports, it did show it as it pre-cut. And I am a fan of pre-cut foam. I don't like cutting my own foam.
Yeah.
Pick and pull is annoying too.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I did buy it. If I found a smaller case that had it pre-cut, I would have bought that. But this is just the one that they had.
Yeah. Trying to do just a quick search on the Matterport Amazon subset here. And that's interesting. I'm not sure I even see the case being offered for sale on.
Yeah, I don't see one.
It was, and it's no longer. Okay. Very interesting. All right. Thank you on that. Is there anything else on gear related? Care and feeding of the camera. Does it feel like it's at the top of the show? You mentioned that it feels really sturdy. Is there anything that gives you angst? How about cleaning? Is it all?
No, the lens cloth that came with it is great. I haven't had to use it too much. Kind of just, before I start, I'll look at it and say, okay, looks clean to me. There's, no dust on the glass. I haven't tried it outside. I did try it outside in between rain, but I haven't tried it during rain, and I don't think I'll do.
I don't have it in me to ask you to do that for our audience.
Yeah.
I know your $6,000 investment there might.
And I know some people that have used the Pro 2 outside during rain, and I still wouldn't do it. I think there's just a limit. No, I'm not going to do it.
So I noticed in the We Get Around Network forum that some members have various lighting solutions. there's not really a place to attach anything, it looks like, to the Matterport Pro 3 camera for lighting. Do you have any thoughts on lighting?
I do. Can I grab something?
Yeah. I'm also curious if you've scanned outdoors or scanned indoors in low lighting. We talk about bright sunlight outdoors, but any low light?
Haven't done low light yet.
Okay.
For my Pro 2, I bought these Litra lights.
Yes.
And just a bunch of various GoPro kind of mounts. And then I'll mount this right on top of the Pro 2.
Okay.
So I think...
Litra.
Litra.
Litra. Okay.
And these ones are dead, so I can't turn them on, but they're extremely bright.
Yeah. In fact, we did an entire WGAN TV Live at 5 show on those lights. So if anyone wants a deeper dive on that, and there's actually, if it's still for sale, a specific mount for the Matterport Pro 2 camera.
Yeah, so this one worked great, but I would think that you could just take this and stick it right there.
Well, that makes me nervous. Doesn't make you nervous?
Why?
I don't know. Change the torque of the camera, $6,000. No?
I'm going to be a rebel and try it.
All right. Report back to us, please. I'm just looking at my notes on gear. Incidentally, on that tripod, I want to say that fiber tripod you use, if I'm not mistaken, is like a $400 tripod.
Extremist. It is.
Okay. I just want to point out, so when our members started Googling and looking for that, it is a pricey tripod for most real estate photographers. Why do you decide you need a tripod that costs twice as much as what everybody else is using?
Well, I've, previous to really diving into this, I would always buy the $30 Best Buy Fry's kind of tripods, little plastic ones, and they would always break. And I went years without having one because I thought tripods sucked and I didn't need them. But you need one for real estate. And so I figured, okay, well, do I want to lug around an aluminum version of that, which I think might be around 200 all day, multiple times a day, multiple shoots? Or do I want to just spring for something that's lightweight and more comfortable to carry around? And that's what I chose to do.
And you mentioned 3, so should we be concerned about it wears out, or no, you're a busy professional photographer and it didn't surprise you that you had to replace them, or actually you have multiple setups with other team members and therefore you have 3 of them?
Yeah. So the first one I had, I dropped it a few times, didn't cause any damage, still worked. But one of my photographers was in need of sturdier tripod, so I donated that to him. And then I bought 2 more, one for my everyday use, and then a second one, if I'm tag teaming a property with somebody, we can just have very similar setups. So kind of just backup gear.
Okay. Learning curve and training. If you've used a Matterport Pro 2 camera, what is the learning curve of using a Matterport Pro 3 camera?
I didn't experience any what do I do now moments.
Just instead of connecting to the capture app with your Pro 2, you connect with your Pro 3, and now you'll notice that you can scan outdoors.
One thing I used to try to shy away, when I was doing indoors and there were shadows or sunspots on the flooring, the Pro 2 didn't pick that up, and so we'd have to do a 360 and convert it to
yes. Yeah.
And so that was one thing I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to do that anymore. I can just scan and keep going. Okay.
So just to clarify for somebody who might be thinking about buying a Matterport Pro 2 camera or Matterport Pro 3 camera, has never used Matterport before, probably helpful to know if you have sun pouring in through the window in a bedroom and you're scanning, a Pro 2 is going to not see that light. And if you don't do that extra scan at some point later in the day, what's going to happen is someone's walking through the dollhouse, they're going to fall through that now black hole in the bedroom.
Yeah.
right down to the next floor. Yeah.
Yep.
So the Pro 3 solved that. You weren't even thinking about it, but it just made that light pouring in from the window disappear as an issue.
Right.
Yeah. So on training, so assuming you either hire another photographer or you engage a photographer but want to train him to use a Pro 3 camera, what's your sense about, would it be easier or harder to train the next photographer in your organization with a Matterport Pro 3 camera versus a Matterport Pro 2 camera?
I would think easier, just in regards to not having to do that extra step of converting when you have sunspots. I don't have to mention that. Speed and training, we can get through a house quicker. But, I'm not doing anything different as far as the number of scan points inside of a residential house. I'm still doing the same amount.
Okay. So that's important to know in terms of the when we talk about speed for residential. If you're going to shoot the same number of scan points with a Matterport Pro 3 camera versus a Matterport Pro 2 camera, you're going to pick up some savings in time because of how fast the Pro 3 rotates versus the Pro 2. But it's not like if you were scanning a super large indoor industrial space where you might be able to do it in half the number of scans.
Right.
Okay. All right. We've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything that comes to mind that we haven't talked about that might be helpful for anyone that's new to the Matterport Pro 3 camera?
Not in particular. You brought up a good question, and you said, how do I put it on the tripod? In what order do I put the quick release clamp?
Yes.
On here first. I don't know where I put it. It's right here.
Okay.
So what I do is I put this on the tripod first. So I'll put this on, tighten it down, and then I'll mount this to it. I just feel like having this on here and trying to twist this all around.
Yeah.
Follow is quite annoying.
Okay.
Disable that.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is a pro tip: when you get the Matterport Pro 3 camera, connect the quick release first to the tripod, and then second connect the Matterport Pro 3 camera. Your chance of losing your Matterport Pro 3 camera in a oopsie, I dropped the camera moment is going to be less.
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to add one other tip, and then maybe you'll see if you have anything else to add. Is this came up because another member of the We Get Around Network Forum community actually did drop their Matterport Pro 3 camera. They had bought what they thought was insurance through Amazon to cover the camera. When they went to make the claim, the company said, "Oh, sorry, you were using the camera for commercial use. That's excluded." So I've so far, I think I've made progress with Amazon to say, hey, it's not fair for you to, when I put the Matterport Pro 3 camera in the shopping cart, to automatically pop up to sell me an add-on insurance when a $6,000 camera is only going to be used for commercial purposes. And oh, by the way, that pop-up doesn't even mention that exclusion. You have to be a really serious researcher to go get to the website of that company, go find the terms of the contract and know that. It looks like I've been okay stopping Amazon from that pop-up on the $6,000 Matterport Pro 3 camera, but it looks like they're still offering it if you get the Matterport Pro 3 acceleration kit. So my tip is decline the add-on because it only covers hobbyists. It does not include commercial use. And I don't know what else anybody would do with an $8,000, $6,000, and $8,000 camera other than use it for business purposes. So
yeah, that would be annoying.
That would be annoying. Yeah. Tom, anything else to add before we say bye?
No, I'm sorry. My camera's going haywire on me.
That's okay. Tom, thanks for being on the show today to share your expertise with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And maybe we'll have another chat in the future.
That's awesome. We've been visiting with Tom Sparks. Tom is the founder of Sparks Media Group, located in Suisun, California, which is about halfway between San Francisco and Sacramento. Full service photography agency and doing virtual tours with Google Street View, iGuide, and Matterport with a Pro 2 and a Pro 3, and providing coverage throughout the states of California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas through a network of photographers. You can check out Sparks Media Group at sparksmediagroup.com or the virtual tour division at scanyourspace.com. And if you have follow-up questions for Tom, he's in the We Get Around Network forum. His WGAN forum member name is at Scan Your Space. For Tom in Suisun, California, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network forum in Atlanta, and you've been watching WGAN TV live at 5.
Hi, guys. Thank you.